Good evening. This is the Village of Lake Bluff Historic Preservation Commission meeting, regular meeting of September 11th, 2019. We believe we have a quorum, but would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Member Church.
Here.
Member Nickel.
Here.
Member Richardson.
Here.
Member Bergman.
Here.
Member Liebold is absent. Chair Kraus.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Second item on the agenda. Or did you have something you wanted to?
Sure. So just as a brief safety note, as you all know by now, the village is currently under a tornado warning. There's rotation indicated out in Wakanda that'll be up over our heads in about 20 minutes. We're thinking it's not a, obviously it's a good time to be in shelter. We are in shelter. So if the sirens here in town start going off, or if we get a call from our police department, we're going to go downstairs to the basement. Stairs, elevator will walk you down there, but again, we're thinking this shouldn't be an issue. So, but if it is, we'll pause the meeting and we'll have a nice little campfire down with Alfreda.
Okay, candlelight?
Can we light the furnace? Oh, sorry.
That was bad.
Okay, agenda item number 2, consideration of July 10, 2019 regular minutes. We received the minutes in our packet. I would entertain a motion to approve.
I so moved.
Second?
Second.
I had
Any-
one,
We have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
there was one item correction.
Okay.
On item number 4, where you specified the different subcommittee members, under districts and site subcommittee members, you have Sherry Richardson listing. I'm also going to be doing that with her, I think.
Uh-oh. I believe that's
Well,
a
I think our
siren.
meeting will adjourn for the moment.
I want to take just a quick look at the list you guys have put together and just refresh our memory of what the online maps look like
So
in
Steve,
a half hour. Yeah.
here are a couple copies of Janet's list. And the X and the no in the far right column, there's not enough for everybody, but just look and pass them on, is whether they're distinguished home awards or not.
Oh, great.
But that's her list.
Oh, I remember seeing this.
Okay.
So most of the usual suspects are on the list, but it's only 20 houses long. And some of them I don't understand why they're there.
Mm-hmm.
On her scored. Ruth Schnell's house. Oh,
Way
Ruth
above
Schnell's
300
house. I know that house.
Do you? Have to.
She sold that though, didn't she? Remember Ruth
I
Schnell's house?
thought she was out of that, but some
I
of
think
these,
she is just recently.
some of these spreadsheets are pretty old, they might be, 8, 9 years old, so.
Oh, at least, this says July 2011, yeah. Interesting. Oh, the Hart's house.
We need to do Hunter's house just for fun.
Yeah,
Hunter, just for fun.
yeah.
Bob?
Yeah, put that at the
Hunter's
top.
not getting off the hook.
No,
Yeah,
but
no,
just for fun.
he's not getting off the hook. That's one of the first houses we're gonna do.
Okay, in an attempt to get out around 8:30, let's go to the list that you should have in front of you. And Janie, do you want to go through your thought process here?
Well, Lois and I met and we both just sort of did a brain dump, and then Lois and Sherry were out of town at opposite times, so we had to have 2 different meetings. And so then I met with Sherry, and it turns out Sherry had thought through all of this too and came up with pretty much the same stuff, but had it more organized, and then she's the one who said she would type it up.
Okay.
So what you see is here, we thought we'd start with the address, style, architect, owner, local survey rating, and then I don't know if the designations, whether that should be,
First or last or where?
yeah.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. At this point, we just want to,
This is pretty
capture it.
much what we would like to find if the information is available on the houses. Speaking of which, Steve, could you give us, once again, that website that you've pulled up for us a couple times about Evanston? Because I went to Evanston Historical Society.
We can't find that, yeah.
I can't find,
let's go to that right now.
I can't get into that.
Actually, if you do Evanston, Lakeshore Historic District, Evanston, you get right to it. It's called the Lakeshore Historic District. We'll pull it up right now.
I
It's
went
one
on
of
to
the
the
ones.
Evanston municipal website.
Yeah, I went on the Historic Society website now.
Interesting.
Nice job. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But while he's doing that, this is a great list. I think that okay, so you're already there. How did you get there?
Well, I've got it saved. I'm not sure where it is on the Evanston website. Let's take a look.
I can send the actual website.
Billy?
Yeah, I'll send it to you and you can.
I'm just
okay.
surprised it didn't have a link on either the municipal or the History
Yeah.
Society. Or if it did, I was unable to find it.
So you couldn't get to this when you were making
No,
your?
No.
no.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's called Lakeshore Historic District. And if you want it, it's maps.cityofevanston.org/apps.
Wait.
maps.cityofevanston.org/apps/Lakeshore HD/.
Okay.
Let me make sure it
Thank you.
works. I got it right to it. If you can't get it,
Well,
let
that's
us
what's
know.
up there. That's
Okay.
what, yeah, that's what's on the,
Okay, so why don't you go to pick someplace, and let's just kind of take a quick scan and compare it to the list we've got in front of us. That's kind of what I want to do today. All right, so what do we have? We have year built, whether it's a local landmark or not, our architectural class, original architect, and then the PDF data sheet is really what we want to go to.
and that's a PDF, so that's,
Yeah. So,
So if we have a Excel spreadsheet and a blank document with those squares in it, it could automatically fill into that.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And this actually is, is it a standard form? Tell me because this is the form you see in our data collection.
I wouldn't say that it's a standard to my knowledge, but there's only a few forms, a few people that do this work, and they're consistent in the products they produce.
Okay.
So in that way, it's a living standard, you might say.
Okay. So I think one of the, I love the list. The next thing is to put another column on each of these, and which is, where do we get this? Where do we get the information? Is it from the History Museum? Do we have to go into Lake County? Is it online? And so that we could give this or a portion of this to this person who's going to do this for us. And they would be able to do the research from the information. And also, as you go through and look at this, so maybe this is homework for you guys to build off of this list. There's a lot of detail here, and do we really want all of the architectural description information that's there? I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. Is this what we want? Can we get it? Then the historical information, which is either going to be easier or harder to get, and then just some additional information as well. We also need to think about adding into this any photograph we have. So any photograph of the home. So we have the tax assessor's photograph, which is the one they feed in here. But also, so we talked about 210 Center, so we should have a before and after on 210 Center. We talked about our house on Moffett and Prospect. Have you gone by there and looked at what it looks like? I mean, it's the original house. It's
Right.
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful. And I don't know if you guys took a photograph of that, but we need a photograph of that. And that needs to be part of the record. This is what was part of, this is the historic part of the home. It looks, it's great. Hopefully they are sensitive to it. So this is one of the sources, if you guys could look at it, now that you have kind of the general idea of what's there, and think of how much specificity do we want? And we want,
Window type.
yeah, and Paul, you can help here. Window types was brought up. Is that something, what do we want? How much detail do we want in the information?
I mean, I think it's a good template. It doesn't need to have every single blank filled in.
This template is created by the National Park Service.
Is it?
And this is a standard template that sort of, I mean, you could probably be able to go to the National Park Service and pull this thing down.
So why doesn't somebody, let's see what they're using as templates,
Right,
because that
you
would.
see this thing with the big black bars, the information blocks in it,
Want me to-
sort of everywhere.
Okay. So photos are one big thing that you have photos identified here, but you also have, so under address, you have significant structural changes, tear downs, renovations, and to the degree that we have dates, or have photos and actual dates, would be great. That's a place where we can actually go to homeowners and see if they have photographs that we can add onto the record at some point.
Yeah, who's storing that? I always say
The
Believe
township
Center.
has the photographs.
But like for our house, my father-in-law designed and built it, we have the original plans.
The-
Where should they go? To the-
So my long-term vision is that would be a PDF file that would ultimately be attached to your address. So the people, because I have, for all of the additions on my house, I have all the plans and the plats and everything else. And at some point, it'd be nice to have those there if any future owner would ever want to look at them. That's sort of the repository that gets the community involved a little bit as well.
So my question just is, where do we take those? Is somebody gathering those? I mean, when we're looking at this and looking at that, if people have photos or if we, we're asking, is there a place where they're going to live, or are we just making
So,
copies of them or
I don't
scanning
know.
them?
I think right now, we want to make sure that the master map, the scheme, has the capability of storing the information that we want. And then we have to figure out how we're going to get it and where we're going to keep it until we can load it. It would-
Okay.
I mean, the only thought I've had about this is that we would populate this in sections or by type. I had originally thought we'd do significant first, then contributing, but that would mean we do
So it
significant
shouldn't,
on the
it shouldn't be
entire
too
side.
difficult to find a repository for that, whether it's on the village database, or on the history museum database. You just block off a section of memory and say, we're gonna start storing this here. The problem you face is when you take your 6 or 7 sheets of drawings out to TNT reproduction in Libertyville,
Right.
which is the simplest and the best place to go at the moment. There's places in Waukegan which are a little sketchier. It's $45 to have them scan your drawings and then email the PDFs to you. And it's more if you want paper copies, then there's a charge for the paper and so on and so forth. But who's gonna pay the $45?
That's,
And
That
if
is-
it's, you get to 15 or 20 sheets, let's say you've remodeled the house 3 or 4 times, and there's stacks of drawings, and suddenly it's $100 worth of drawings. And so,
And again, all good questions, things that we just have to solve.
Yeah.
At the first point is knowing that they're drawing somewhere
Yeah.
would be great to know, and then we figure out.
knowing that they're available.
Knowing that they're
Yeah.
available.
Right.
So if this team can go through this, find out if this is a national forum. If it is, that makes it simple, because that's the form we'll use. That seems pretty simple. And then think about all the other things that we want, let's go to Lake County, because I want to show you some of that.
I can't actually find the new stuff you were talking about. I'm still seeing the old.
Really?
Yeah. They might have put it at a different place I'm not finding.
Or am I dreaming again? So, maps.lakecounty.il.gov/mapsonline/.
So we got.
So let's see what I got. So I always do my house because I can always find it. Okay, so you got this, and this is new, this red notice here. So they've updated things as to December 2018, and then you go down to all this stuff is new. Street view, oblique view. So go to my house. So this is another place for your team to go, is to this tax map. So go, scroll up, okay, so that's new, that red is new, what
Okay.
made me realize there was stuff here. So do we need a parcel ID number? I'm gonna get real granular here. Do we need this? It's gonna be in, and the answer is, we don't need to do it because this is already in the county files. So from my perspective, I think this is easier, is that we have a link to this file in our Lake Bluff map.
Okay,
Can we do that?
yeah.
Okay. Then all we need to know is what we have here. So now we can scroll down a little bit, because there's some really cool stuff here.
So people can just find it by address, they don't have to have it.
They'll just find it by address. Okay, so the tax description, the lot, and the block number, which is always for nerds who like to know this stuff. The lot, I couldn't get to work the tax map, so let's skip that. Maybe it'll be working. But go to the street view and view map, and it goes to Google. It goes to the 3D. Which I, as an old guy, just find absolutely fascinating. And I took a walk to the lake, so you can walk down Park Place into the park.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do, so all of this stuff is there if people want to see context.
It's a house across the
Yeah, across street, everything,
Pink Palace, yeah.
yeah, is all there.
You
So,
know, you know, it's nice, but they have to start doing this stuff in the wintertime.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you can't see my
If you go down,
house.
if you go
Yeah.
down Woodland, if you go down my street on Woodland, you can see maybe a quarter of the houses
Yeah.
because of the tree cover.
Okay, so take a look at this, and then let's go back, and you can see some of the other stuff that's here.
Are we going to include tax information?
It's already there, that's the point.
So
So
we'll
go to the tax bill. So I think what we just need to do on our list is, so here's Lake County, we're gonna have a link to it, here's what's included, just so we remember that's there.
So in that where column,
So there's my tax bill.
we say, when we said like PIN and legal description, we just say Lake County map.
Yeah, yeah, it's there. So if anybody gets freaked out that you don't wanna know what your tax bill is, it's all
It's still
online.
public,
It's
yeah.
all there, it's all public. Go back, so let's go
You
back.
paid
and just look at-
$30 to the mosquito abatement district?
Which I guess people have been trying to get eliminated for a long time. What else do we want to look there? So go down a little bit further. Oh, I wonder what property record search
Yeah,
is.
if you go down further in that data column, there's information about additions and
So-
changes to it, and square footages and things like that.
So go up. Yeah, so that's good. Now I'm thinking of branding. So do you want to know everything there is to know? What school district are you in? What are all your taxing bodies? It's all right there. Who are your elected officials? It's all right there. So all of that stuff, when we publicize this, we can say as part of our website, even though we don't have to do anything, it's already there.
So can you, because I can't see the bar up there, can you tell me it's maps.lakecountyil.gov?
Maps.lakecountyil.gov. And actually, I
And then
got,
slash something?
let me go exactly to what I had.
/maps online, I think.
It is maps.lakecountyl.gov/mapsonline/.
Thank you.
And you can find all kinds of fun stuff here. For example, look at the structures over on the beach. Go to one of those. That was new. This is new in this map.
No, that's been there for a while. That's a sanitary district.
I don't know. I don't think it was on the map before.
Yeah.
But it shows you, very similar to what Susan did and her team, as to how this particular parcel got into Lake Bluff. This is now showing that it's this subdivision. I don't know if it has a date on it, but
Wow. That's a lot of our work done right there.
Yeah, I'm thinking, what can we check off here? But then we'll still have that separate sheet that we were just looking at, like Evanston has, besides
yes,
this body of information.
yes. And if you remember, that was a separate PDF file.
Yes.
Just like this will be a separate link. So all
Okay.
the stuff we're doing, and that's part of the
Oh.
integrity of the database, this isn't going into our core map. Very little goes into the core map.
Okay,
All of the detailed information is a link, either PDF or a link to some other source,
okay.
okay?
So, just one thing I wanted to, it's on this sheet that we did on, the, whatever, the LBOT test where we were looking at to get this information. On the query side, where, you can pick, like, I want a list of the significant homes, or I want a list of
So let's go to
all of those homes.
okay.
The only thing in Lake Bluff that wasn't over there on the left was districts, or whatever we end up calling them. So I just thought we should add that
Right.
to that list over there.
So, contributing are green, not blue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's
Well,
blue?
I don't like, I
Blue
can't see
is-
that.
What colors do we use? Here you go.
Local landmark.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so blue is a
Okay.
local landmark, the dark blue is a local landmark, light blue, I can't read that over there.
Local survey significant.
Local survey significant, and green is local survey contributing. So according to Susan Benjamin's new survey, the entire terrace will be green. Which,
Well, but it's all built within 2 or 3 years, yes.
right,
So if one house is significant, they're all significant.
right. So we just have to decide how we want to deal with that. You know, it just is a little less, elegant's the wrong term, it's a little less visually stimulating
Special.
than I thought it would be.
Well, couldn't it be, many of those homes started out as, they were all little ranch houses. And many of them have been changed. So
Yeah.
you could have the district being significant, contributing, but then have a different category for the ones that are still,
Actually, on the West
Packed or
Terrace,
whatever.
there's 4 different styles of houses, 2 or 3 of which are 2-story houses,
Right.
and the bulk of them have not changed.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of
And
my
so-
neighborhood, the East
So
Terrace.
some of them have little bump outs on them, maybe they have dormers added or something like that. But the West Terrace is this thing that sort of got stuck in time, and the developers haven't discovered it yet, and the land value, the land monsters haven't gotten their hands on it yet. Now, the East Terrace is a little different in that there's a lot of ranches that have gotten doubled up and stuff.
That's where I was
That
talking about.
that history is a little more eclectic
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit earlier than the West Terrace.
Mid-50s.
It's the sort of the mid-terrace, because then the North Terrace is really the earliest of the terraces.
Right.
And-
So we'll just have to think about color coding and how we deal with the base map. But the point is that all the information on the east side, so we've got a base map we can look at and see what's there. Let's go back to your list here. So address, significant changes, if we can, we should, what I want to do is that the form we have, think of this as a data capture form. So it says, all right, significant structural changes, so, need a description, need a date, need a photo. So that's the sort of thing that I'm thinking of anyway. Style, we can go with the national list on that. Architect, if we know it. Owner, so how far back do we want to go with ownership? we can go back, the History Museum has the Griffith Grant and Lackey, they call it the morgue, but it's probably 50 or 60 years worth of ownership on homes that they handled. So it has, so for my house, it has me and what I paid for it, and it has Mrs. Ruse that we bought the house for and what she paid for it, and that's as far back as they go. But that's a fairly far away. So it's just another source, and those names and dates should be in there as we build the social history of the home. So that's easy to do.
Do other realtors have those kind of records?
I don't know, it's something that we need, and it's on my to-do list, is to begin, once we get this a little bit more fleshed out, is to go and talk to the real estate community.
Griffith Grant and Lackey has the longest record. The record is over 110 years old.
Really?
They have all of their correspondence out of their Lake Forest office. What Janet did was she went over and just simply copied the pull cards. There are cases of monthly letters and monthly reports that go on. There's a treasure trove of information there that is so astounding, it's gonna take a crew of about 10 or 15 people to go in there and dig that out. I worked with a woman who took about a 25-year period, and she studied the period, and she came up with about 40 notebooks of organizing things by topics.
Goodness.
And it's an
Goodness.
extraordinary database. What Janet has done is just simply scratch the very, very top of it.
Yeah. So again, it's under at this point, we need to know what we have, and at least understand where it is, the depth of it, and figure out at some point later how we're actually gonna use it.
Well, Janie and I met with Lindy,
Uh-huh.
and she began a preliminary education on how we could go back centuries to, through the Lake County records to check ownership. But if we could go in Griffith Grant and Lackey's, that would be a lot easier, I think.
Yeah,
No,
if they
it's-
handled the
it's
sales
not.
of the homes.
It's not.
Big if.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easier.
To navigate.
Not in the Griffith Grant and Lackey documents, because it's organized chronologically by month, by year. So if you wanna know what they.
I think she's talking about the card file. So, but that's a question for us, how far back do we want, if my house is circa 1900, how far, do we want to make an effort to see if we can find who owned it, who built it?
Yeah,
Okay, so that's a huge amount of work to do that for every structure in the village. But if we want that, then we need to specify that in our data collection sheet. So it's more than just owner, it's, ownership, it's date built, and who built it, and then every owner after that if we can. And that's a huge amount of work that we won't live to see finished. But it's something that if we want, we should at least specify it, and that's
well, I
kind
think
of
we
everything.
can start with current and then
Sure.
take another swipe and go back,
Right,
neighborhood
do
by
it
neighborhood
layers,
and do
yeah.
it layers.
And-
because-
And we may find some homeowners who are interested in helping us, who they may be interested, or they may already have done it for their homes, so they may, and that's part of getting the word out, here it is, help us populate the database. What else? I think that gives you guys enough to go with here, but look at this in great detail. Oh, go up to some of the filters that the county, go back to the county. You have some filters in here too, don't you? So go to some of the filters. There's some interesting stuff if you go up on top. I forget which one.
Which one were you thinking
I
of?
don't know. Oh, so what's this?
Oh.
Interested in these, or?
I don't know. I mean, I was playing around. Yeah, try a layer list, try something. What has the, yeah, I don't care about that. There's some that have aerial maps. There's some old map, on Lake Bluff, the Lake Bluff one, there's old map views.
Oh,
There's the base map stuff, yeah. So play around with the stuff on top too, because you can find some really interesting things that, yeah. So there you go, so there's one of the old maps. Actually, that, I think, is in the Benjamin report. Yeah, so that's ownership, the original ownership of the land. From what year is this?
1870 or so.
1870. So there you go. So you can,
That's,
so you can see some interesting things there. You see the train
that's
is already there.
1873. And this is 1885.
Big difference.
So you can see right next to, right where it says Rockland, and then on the left side, you see
Mhm.
those, the 8 parcels that are shaded. So that's the Rockland
Oh.
area. That, one of those is a school, one of those is the bar, one of those is the tavern, or maybe 2 or 3 of them are the taverns. But those are individual parcels that are owned by people, and that was Lake Bluff, that was Rockland, that was the community of Rockland.
So if you look on this map, you can see the word Rockland, and then you see the 8 houses.
Right.
Below that, you see the name Mary Hart.
Right?
And on the plot land for Mary Hart, next to the number 30 is a schoolhouse.
Right.
Okay, and if you go straight up from that, you see either the tavern or the little red schoolhouse. You can see that even on this map, they've been marking out where those buildings
Yeah.
were.
On Green Bay Road, the old Green Bay Trail. And you can see, so this is at a time when the camp meeting grounds were starting, so they've got at least the areas that are identified. And those are still used if you look at your tax bill and you look at where if you're in that part of town, my section is 21, so I have one, I forget which piece, and the east 10 feet of another piece in section 21 of whatever.
So could you go to like section 21, 20, 3, 4, 5, and see who owned that plot of land then?
Not in this map.
There's
This is a drawn map. It doesn't have layers behind it. But that's the idea. It would be great to be able to see who
Yeah.
bought property there. For example, I found out, just because I'm doing some other stuff in the village, and I found out that Dr. Abbott, who founded Abbott Labs,
Really?
bought property in the camp meeting area. Never built there, but he bought property as an investment.
Really?
Yeah. We're trying to find
Is
out
that-
exactly where. So there's the Durans and Crabtree Farm Dairy Farm up on top, the McCormick Estate. So the point here is look through all these filters. Look at every button, push every button you can, and you'll find out you've just spent 6 hours looking at a silly map. Okay, that's all I have tonight. Anybody else have anything else? This was we'll go down in history as the meeting that we spent in the basement. So, I will talk with Drew about branding. We will hopefully have a draft of an ordinance either next month but certainly by November that we can look at, knowing that we want to spend some time studying it. The team will be looking at Lake Bluff Online, looking at every filter that's there, looking at this map, looking at the county map, looking at the Lakeshore Historic District. If you can't get access, just let either Glenn or I know, and we can give you the actual URL again. Paul, we've got a couple of people that are providing information to you on potential for individual landmarks, the significant list, the walking tour summary information. And hopefully we can begin to sort through that list next month. With districts, hopefully we'll have a list in November of the sites, let's call them, that will be further studied, and we'll hopefully be looking at one per month.
Okay.
And that's all I had, yes.
Could we get a copy of that list of sites and homes that you had?
This
did?
one?
Yes.
Oh,
No,
that
that
one.
one.
This one.
Yeah, that would be great.
Could we make a copy of this for everybody? Thank you, sorry.
Do you have a
And-
copy of this one?
Yeah, this one
Copies
too.
of this too? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And unless somebody wants to spend hours, go to an aerial, go to the 1939 aerial. And then zoom in on Lake Bluff and you'll see, so look at, you can see Crabtree Farms pretty easily, but then look at that big space. Go down a little bit on the map. I want to get, no, the other way, the other down. There you go. So Crabtree Farms is up there. There's, you can see Blodgett, but look at that big space that has nothing on it.
So,
Was that, I mean, that's where the brickyard was. Was that the remnants of the brickyard, or what was there? And
wow,
Now, that's Crabtree right there.
I think Crabtree's further north.
No, that's Crabtree Farm.
Survey
Blodgett all
says.
across?
Maybe, what?
It was wrong.
Because you had the 1939 map up? Sure, you come down the driveway and the driveway splits into a T.
So which is it?
It looks like this is Blodgett here at the north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So go back to the one that we had, and Blodgett is the road to the north, and then that, right there where the cursor is, and Crabtree is north of that, so I don't know
So
what
then-
that is.
So then that road that comes down here, that's Woodland Road,
yeah,
Yeah.
because it curves.
okay?
So
And then
how
it
that
stops on a
was
cul-de-sac.
undeveloped in 1939 is actually fascinating.
Not even any trees.
yeah.
That's where the
So-
UFOs landed.
Yeah. Maybe that was Al Capone's
Distillery.
distillery.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the kind of stuff that you can get absolutely lost
The
in.
rabbit hole.
Anything else? Great meeting. We'll meet again next month. We'll just keep this rolling, little by little. If you haven't had a chance to go and look at Moffett and Prospect, go and look at it before they start building something on it.
I did look, it's cool.
It's just
Take
fascinating.
pictures.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely, it's
Who
really
can take pictures?
interesting.
We'll take some
Will you?
good ones before we issue the.
And we have copies coming, and then we are finished.
I move that we
Adjourn?
adjourn, thank you.
All in favor? We adjourn? Not quite
It's like-
8:30, but not bad.
Close and stop.
And you will, if you really sit down with a cup of coffee or some other liquid and start looking through these maps, you will get lost in them. You really, I just get lost every time I look. When you look at the filters and all that other,
I don't even have time to open my mail these days.
no,